Hello and welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm your host, Jeff Carlton, certified focal point business and executive coach, and I'm really excited today to be joined by Dr. Chance Eaton of Big Sky Way. Have you lost your edge? It's very interesting. We're in very similar lines of work, and I'm really excited for this conversation. So welcome, Chance.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Jeff.
So tell us about Big Sky Way. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so we're a management consulting and education firm. We're located in Helena, Montana. And so we specialize in simplifying leadership, from a business perspective and the people perspective. To give you some idea of the products, just kind of wrap your head around it, we do a lot of certificates. And so we're partnered with a Montana University system in Dawson College. So we have permission to give out workforce development certificates from Dawson College on all of our different certificate programs. We do a lot of customized workshops for companies. And then on the consulting side, owners come in and we just facilitate strategy. We might be go in and observe or run a company's meetings, work with a leadership team for a year and just help them with their cohesiveness. We'll build performance management systems, help prepare a business for a loan, a lot of annual strategy and execution kind of meetings. So it's all that kind of messy stuff that comes with people in business. And then we'll also do some assessments and coaching. And we'll bake that in. They're not standalone products, but we'll bake that into the different products. And then our clients, there's no particular industry, but all of our clients have kind of some common characteristics. They're really good companies. They're respectable companies, but they're starting to notice there's a lot of like siloing and politicking and turf wars in their culture. They don't have a good sense of cultural DNA. Their leaders are stuck in kind of a technical expert comfort zone. They don't really understand the changing workplace expectations. At the business level, they're not sure where they're profitable. They don't have a good marketing strategy. The revenues plateau. And so that's the kind of client that wants to work with us. And they're not quite happy with being respectable. They want to be a remarkable company. And so there's some humility and grit and hunger that comes with that. They want to get better. So if it's already a very dysfunctional company, we're not a good fit. But those are some of those characteristics. And then what we really try to focus on is simplicity. Everything we do is very relevant. We take kind of abstract concepts and make them really easy to understand. The human factor, we're obsessed about building that trust with our clients. And then the the smart side, simple human smart, is everything we do touch something. None of our knowledge base is used unless it has a good body of research. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing with our clientele. Every day is
Yeah,
very different.
it's interesting. You brought up two key words about change. Reminds me of Gleicher's formula for change. Um, if folks haven't read the book, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gleicher, and the formula for change, dissatisfaction, vision, first steps has to outweigh resistance to change. And sounds like you kind of nailed that one on the head. And the other one was trust, which uh, I'm a fan of David Horsager and Trust Edge and Trusted Leader. He's a great concepts there too. So you say we a lot. How big is Big Skyway? How many people are on your team?
We have one other consultant right now. We have a marketing manager. We recently had a account manager, and they also did talent development, talent management. But we're looking for bringing in more consultants. So it's a small little shop. This day and age, you don't need a lot of, as you learn to operationalize marketing and standardize things, you can do a lot of work without having to touch it. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, we were talking earlier before we got kicked off about the onset of technology and those of us that emerged from the analog age into the digital age. Um, what are your favorite automation tools or AI tools that you're using and introducing into your process?
Yeah, and this is a big part of just business. If you want to, you start at this kind of craftsperson's position, you move to being more of a business practitioner, and you want to get to this investor place where you build a valuable, sellable company. And so it's so much of that formula is around operationalizing, standardizing. The test is, can I step away from the business for 3 months and does the business still continue? And so from an AI perspective, a lot of we use ChatGPT daily. Usually it's just to kind of get some ideas going or to get some content going or some concepts going. We'll use from a lead generation perspective, we'll use vendors that will go out and find companies that are looking for what we offer. And then from just operationalizing like marketing, once you build up a decent email list, building those nurture campaigns and those sale campaigns that are just automated. And it's just, if someone's opening it twice, we're going to re-hit them with some different content. They open it a third time, we're going to hit them with some different content yet, because that might be our ideal customer that's really listening, that pain point speaks to
Right.
them. And so marketing's a huge one.
And so, Chat GPT, have you dabbled with Perplexity at all?
I've not, no.
Yeah, it's an interesting one that was great for developing content in my experience so far, but I'm an self-professed newbie to the
Mhm.
AI world, rapidly educating myself on that. Um, so you're currently 1 to 2 people besides yourself. Um, you're working with companies. Are you specifically Helena area, Montana, or national?
Yet national. So a lot of our companies will be conglomerates, and so they might have offices in different regions. And the cool thing about, our ability to use Zoom now, all of our certificates are run online. A lot of our consulting is done online. And so
Right.
it doesn't really matter where anyone's at anymore. Um, I prefer that live piece, that from that human condition perspective and that trust and that emotional intimacy. It's so much stronger, but it is just kind of um, the new times.
Yeah, it's incredible how important nonverbal communication can be when, I mean, you come in into a coaching scenario, you're literally saying, okay, open the kimono and show me what's underneath the
Mhm.
hood.
Mhm.
And that's hard to do sometimes in the digital space as opposed to
Yeah.
in person. Um, so we kind of hit on innovation um, and some of the tools you're using there. What are some of your favorite grassroots go-to things for organizational stability and communication?
Stability and what do you say stability? What was the other thing?
Communication.
Yeah. I think, if you're referring to like how do we, how do we uh, stay stable in times of change? I'm really like everything I use is pretty old school. So even from a communication perspective, just lean on the research. The research, we use a lot of Gallup work. It basically tells you what communication is supposed to look like. What are the psychological needs of people at work. When we look at like stability and growth and strategy, we go back to old cultural DNA concepts that haven't changed, and we stick religiously, and we do the same thing ourselves as we do with our clients is basic strategic planning process. When everything's important, nothing's important, and good ideas are worth $1, but implementing good ideas is worth $1 million. And so, that old Jim Collins flywheel concept of really understanding what you're excellent at and diving into that. So we just use all these tools that, from the 1960s to probably the early 2000s that have been created. We lean on all that stuff. And I think a lot of companies are trying to romanticize and sexify a lot of these old topics and turn them into something new. We just stick to kind of the base research that's out there and lean on it.
Yeah, I think it's often underestimated just how powerful please and thank you are. They're incredibly, incredibly powerful leadership tools. Please and thank you. It's
Yeah.
really just that simple.
Yeah, it shows up in the research all the time, like the factor of care or recognition for good work. It
Yeah,
continues to show up in the data. And there's always kind of this yin yang to the data. There's this production piece, and then there's this people piece. And you've got to get them both right. Right. And so and it's pretty powerful when you bring them back together. But yeah, it continues to show up in the data.
yeah. Care and trust is are critical to your internal customers, and then that is what then exudes out to your external customers, which are the people that are bringing you income.
Yeah.
So,
And I think this idea of trust, it's such a cheesy topic, right? And a lot of people say, we'll talk about trust is so important. My question is always, so how do you do it? How do you build it? And they never have an answer for it. And they go to a 3-hour seminar, they talk about trust. I was like, well, how do you build trust? They're not sure. And so, in our work, we got to really get down to, we're kind of known for the how people. How do you do something? What is the script for it? But I think it's so funny, like there's going to be more of a need for communications training coming up. We're getting more requests from the younger generation doesn't have the skill to communicate. And it's not, that's part of it, maybe the skill, but it's the trust part. And if you ask people, like, bring to mind people you have a lot of trust with, they're credible, they're dependable, they have emotional intimacy, they don't have high self-orientation, and you have a lot of trust with them, and you ask, what's it like to communicate? And they say, it's simple, it's seamless. We can have conflict, we can have debate. And then bring to mind someone you don't have trust with, you're walking on eggshells, it's difficult. And the point I'm making is, it's not so much about the communication. That starting point really is the trust. Trust is fundamental, to everything we do. And it's part of our social species, right? Our tribal history is we needed each other to survive. And so none of that's changed.
yeah, it's interesting you bring up the generational gap in communication styles, and that was talked about a lot in my former profession in the military and leadership channels. Is that the younger generation communicates digitally? There was no
Mhm.
actual interaction. Everything is on your little on your phone. And so the emotion was taken out of it. And
Yes.
I wonder how much of an argument for building the trust is really based on the emotional response that somebody is getting in a conversation as opposed to the content, which goes
Yeah.
back to nonverbal communication of the spoken word is really only 12 to 15% of the message. The rest of it is intonation and body language.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. We call that emotional intimacy part, like how we connect, how we play catch with one another, how hard we throw the ball, when we throw the ball hard, etc. Yeah, it's just part of it. And I just feel from a business perspective, like we're already starting to get some requests for that. There's probably going to be more and more of it. And, so that gets me to think out, in our strategy, do we start beefing up some communications training? Is that going to be something in the marketplace? But yeah, super, super interesting.
Yeah, it's one of the primary things that I focus on in my practice as well is on because that's where I see the breakdown between the guy that's really good with his hands, um, but didn't understand everything that he was responsible for being a business owner and had no leadership experience except for get in the truck, get out of the
Yeah.
truck, get the tools out of the truck.
Yeah.
Um, and they're not communicating on the level that that employee responds to.
Yeah.
Um,
The leader has to be the best communicator in the room. That's part of their job. That's what they're paid for. Clarity of expectations, feedback, corrective action, high performance. And you're right. This is the biggest problem is you take someone with technical skill, you're a good welder, you're a good auditor. Let's give you a team of 10. Completely different skill. And so we need to really work on helping leaders understand, what are you paid for? What is this part of the job? Same with entrepreneurs. They make the same mistake. They're skilled technicians, they're a great attorney, they're a great HR director, and they go start a business and they think that technical skill will translate to business skill. No, it's a second skill. And so that's, you got to bolt on the business skill, the leadership skills, the people skills. Anyway, that to me, in my mind, is the number one problem.
no, I would agree, and that's very insightful. I think the other thing is being a great communicator means that you have to be the best listener in the room, from a leadership standpoint. Uh, that's critical.
Yeah.
How do you know what you're supposed to say if you don't know, if you didn't hear what was going on around you, right?
And this is really hard. We're often taught to we're supposed to be the smartest person in the room as that leader. And there's these psychology hacks. You're more likely to get buy-in when everyone's had a chance to weigh in first. Reasonable people don't need to get their way, but they want to feel heard. And the rule is, conflict, debate, have this conversation. The leader of the room gets to make the final decision. So as Covey used to say, seek first to understand, then be understood. Shut your mouth, allow for the conflict, the information flow up. You get to make that final decision. And then your team needs to know when the decision is made, with be committed to it. But that is such a paradigm shift for a lot of leaders because they think we're supposed to have all the answers. And then the last 2 minutes of a meeting, they say, well, what do you guys think? Well, they want to get out of there. It's all done. And then they ask me, like, why don't they participate? So it's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah, no, it's great. It reminds me of a quote from Dyson, the guy that invented the cyclonic vacuum, that the best ideas come from the collision of ideas from different disciplines. Paraphrasing there, but
Yeah.
that's exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
I love
Healthy
that.
conflict. We spend so much time, not artificial harmony, not mean-spirited personal attacks, but how do we teach and learn of how to have great debate. And if we have trust, that comes back to trust. If you and I trust each other, then debate becomes very natural because it's not about you that I'm arguing about. It's about the ideas and the concepts and trying to teach a team to get messy. Uh, Super fun to watch.
Especially, yeah, it is, and it's especially interesting when they feel like they're in competition for each other economically somehow. Man, that is a bucket of ice water on a campfire.
Yeah,
Uh,
you have this siloing effect and everyone's advocating for their position. And that, especially a team, they have to recognize that it's a collective single mind. We're all here together trying to solve the same problem. And the siloing or the politicking or the turf wars, that's a cancer in the organization. Like I'll tell you, when we work with teams on this cohesive concept, 3/4 of the time, someone on that team steps off. If it's a senior leadership team, they step off the team because they don't want to participate in that. But it's kind of like the rules going forward is if we do not work together, why are we doing this? We're not a golf team where you have individuals. We're not a wrestling team. We're a football or a basketball team where we all have to work together. And it's like this old concept of team is coming back. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's new cutting edge technology.
right, right.
If you're gonna send the fullback up the left side, you need to pull the right guard.
Yep.
Everybody's gotta do their thing. No, it's brilliant. I love that. So tell me what your future plans are for Big Skyway. What does it look like in 12 to 36 months?
We kind of have this model of being the architect. Like, how do we keep building systems and processes? How do we build smart around our strategies and what we're really good at? And so for us, it's scaling. So much of our knowledge is now manualized. So all of our products are online. They've got manuals, they've got references, they've got pre-recorded lectures, activities. So we can supplement that when we go work with the client. So they always have access to that education. But
Right.
now we can bring on consultants, right? And so the consultant can come on and say, because a lot of consultants lack content, they lack information. So we've got tons of information that's manualized. And so they can come in, pick the products. You can sell it in a million different ways. We've got one product that could probably turn into 60 hours of consult, one product that could turn into 5 hours. You can slice it, dice it in a million ways. So now they have content, and our job would just to be kind of be a mentor and facilitate and help them with marketing copy and marketing in general. So everything for us is trying to get to that scalable level, and that's the fastest way to do it is start to just replicate what we're doing.
I like it. So how long you've been around for over 10 years, correctly?
Yeah, yep, yep.
Um, and your background prior to that, you were in education, right?
Yeah, so I taught in universities for 6 years, but way before that, I was an old farmer rancher. I grew up in a 1909 homestead farm and ranch in eastern Montana and western North Dakota. And so I learned a lot about manufacturing, right? Break even, enterprise analysis, reading your financials, getting work done, having grit. And so that's where I started. And I found farming to be rather boring, but I had this real keen eye for psychology and education and business. I love those little parts of it. And so I left in my mid-20s just to go explore and got to work in a lot of strange, different kind of companies. But that's, all those things kind of add up to getting the start. And so I started this in 2009.
Wow. You've been going for a while. So, um, have you been bigger and downsized, or um are you kind of on that growth trajectory now?
I think growth trajectory, when we first started, it was just a colleague that reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you help with this?" I probably didn't have all the acumen and knowledge at the time, took a stab at it. Like as an entrepreneur, you get dirty. You just try out everything. Did it full time for a couple of years, part time for a couple of years, full time. But it has been a trajectory going up. And I think as a business, growth is part of the research, right? You have to be able to continue to grow in what you do and simplify all that complexity as you're doing it. But yeah, it's definitely a growth trajectory.
Um, so one kind of closer for everybody. What did you find is the biggest challenge? Because we talked a lot about entrepreneur
Uh-huh.
and and starting a business. What did you find to be most challenging about um, being an entrepreneur and running the business as opposed to working the business?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. Owning it versus just being an employee. Like when you start off, you got to have cash. This is one of the top 5 reasons why business want a business. You got to have enough cash. You got to be obsessed with cash flow budgeting.
Cash is king.
Yeah, cash is king. COVID is a perfect example. You really need to know like what month do things get tight? What month do surpluses get significant enough where I can make that next move? Um, the other part of it is you're going to work some long hours in the beginning. You can't live there because that means your business isn't standing on its own 2 feet, but you're going to have a lot of 78-hour weeks. As
Yeah.
you're getting dirty, you're trying to wrestle with and try to make sense of all this. Um, Another really big thing I think is because it's your own money. Everything's more sensitive when it's your own money. And so you start to look at marketing differently than working in the environment where you have, marketing campaigns with lots of cash and you get really damn obsessed about 3 things. What is the problem I'm solving? Like, what is that product? And it has to be better than other people's. It has to be exceptional. Who's buying it? Who's that ideal customer? When everyone's your customer, no one's your customer. There has to be a match. What problems are they having? So you're talking this exact same language, and then the marketing copy to go with it. Those 3 things was such an aha to me. You've got to get those 3 things in alignment, and then business starts to take off when you really know what you solve, who needs it, and you can speak in the right way. Um, and I think the other part of it is you don't get to be a technician anymore. You don't get to be a craftsperson. You know, working in a corporate environment, I was the organizational development guy. I had, all the people coming to me and I was like the hero. And when you go to run your own business, you're not the hero. And you see
Right.
websites where people say like, I'm the hero. Look at all my awards, my accomplishments. Look how great I am. You're not the hero. The client's the hero. And so you really quickly got to realize they're the hero. My job is to help them solve the problem that's what they're paying me for. And it's just kind of a shift, and you have to build a business and get some business acumen, a little bit of finance, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of strategy, et cetera. So I think those are kind of the things that are different.
Yeah, and the word that jumped out in my head as you were saying that is and unfortunately I think really young people, the word that jumped out at me was maturity. Um, you have to realize you are not the hero. It's about the client. It's about your internal clients, which are your employees. And so if you're going to start a business and run a business, um, you need to put everything else first,
Right, right. And
but
you,
the
yeah.
expense of your family,
And so you
not at the
have
expense of family.
you've got to be really mindful if you say, I'm going to go leave this, I left a nice six-figure job, corner office, big projects, big budgets, it was a really nice job to zero,
Right.
to $0.
I
And so
did the same thing.
you have to have these discussions. I'm single. I'm not married. I'm divorced.
I am
And
too.
oh, do you have two kids that are 15 and 18?
No, 19 and 24.
Pretty close, pretty close. But these discussions with a family of how long do we do this? How much cash are we going to put into this? At what point do we stop doing this? You've just got to be really frank and open with what that looks like. Because again, we romanticize it. And some small businesses are fortunate. They're probably hobby businesses, but they have cash coming from other places. They don't run out of cash. But in my case, there was no cash. It was all on what I could do. But yeah, that work-life balance is different for an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna work 10 hours a week and I'm gonna make twice as much money.
Absolutely.
Not happening, folks.
Absolutely. And you've
Not
got to get kind of clear on how do you take care of yourself? Because I think it leads to a lot of depression, anxiety, and addiction. So you've got to find some systems, find something of how do you stay grounded? Because who are you going to talk to? There is no perfect case study for your kind of business. There's no perfect book for it. And it gets very lonely. And so you've got to do things to take care of yourself.
yeah, because the snow shovel doesn't talk back to you when you're swearing at it.
Right, right.
Chance, this has been an absolute pleasure. And for everybody that
Likewise.
joined us, thanks for exploring this business journey with me on navigating to success. And we will see you all next time. Chance, parting words, anything?
Oh, parting words. I know I badmouth entrepreneurship a lot because I'm trying to get real with people, but it's a beautiful life, right?
Yeah,
Once you can figure out your business model, which is so critical, it is fun because you get to make a difference in people's lives, whatever that service is, because that's all we do as business, we solve problems. I think once you get the business stuff out of the way and you can start to enjoy it for the right reasons, it's life on steroids, right? You have these highs and lows, but you start to get that maturity, you see it from a different perspective, and man, you couldn't ask for a better life.
it's incredibly rewarding, but it does come, it's like climbing a mountain.
Yep,
The view is great from up here.
yep.
Um, um, beware of the walk down. All right. Take care, everyone.